Welcome to the September 21st edition of the PFF Forecast. I'm George. I'm joined as usual by my good buddy, the doctor, Eric Eager, number one, Restore the Roar, prophet, priest, high priest, whatever you want to call it. He informed me right before this podcast that he will be going to watch the restoration of the glory in person. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to power rank both the NFC and AFC top five, because we had a couple of really good teams play on Monday night. So we wanted to wait until this podcast to do that. And of course, we're going to run through the week 3 slate. We're going to decide on our lock of the week and have a great week 3. Let's rock. Before we got on the podcast, we talked about a couple of things. One thing that you mentioned that I think we just have to get out of the way here right away is that Adam Levine has made all NFL teams. Like Nathaniel Hackett was catching heat for looking like an idiot, and Adam Levine was like, buddy, I got your back.
Yeah. Holy buckets.
What's this?
Well, so the weirdest part of it, so I was listening to, and this is my recommendation for the week. I was listening to the Jesselnick and Rosenthal Vanity Project. Greg Rosenthal is a analyst at the NFL Network. I think probably one of the smartest analysts that they have for sure, and widely there. His best friend Anthony Jesselnick's a comic, and they go through like these stories, and they were talking about Adam Levine, and the funniest part was this idea that the gal that he sent those messages to, his name's Summer, and apparently he was messaging her the last time to ask her if he could name his new son Summer, which has to be an all-time great blunder, right? Because there's literally billions of names to like billions of names, right? There's different variations, there's different spellings, there's different like pronunciations, and there's that. And then she goes and like just blows him up by like sending these messages that he sent her. Sounds like very Nathaniel Hackett-ian in terms of not unforced errors at the end of games.
Sending mixed messages. So a couple of things that I want to call out. The first is, it's even worse than that. You are giving him the benefit of the doubt. Her name is not Summer. It is Sumner. Sumner. Okay. So they don't have the word, they don't have the name Sumner in Nebraska, apparently, where your shirt is from. But this is one of the most dudes down horrendous moves. I mean, first off, like the infidelity aside, which is bad enough, but the desperation. I mean, if you are sending that to a person that you are, trying to increase their attraction towards you, this ain't the way. Right? No. This ain't it. Okay.
Well, there was always the thing when you were growing up, and like, I'm assuming you didn't have to deal with this because you were further on the scale than me, I'll say. But like, there was always the thing of like, when you had a girlfriend, other women found you more attractive. And anecdotally and empirically, I found that to be more true. Like, I certainly did. I perceived more opportunities when I was attached. I'll just say that. So maybe he felt like him being as attached as possible, literally with child, would make him attractive to this other lady that he's already had an affair with. I think trying to reverse engineer what he and then subsequently Nathaniel Hackett's like mindset were, might be just futile for us. But I feel like maybe that's the Rosetta Stone here, is that he's like, look, I mean, she's going to find me way more attractive now that I've spread my seed here.
It is. I think your point is interesting. Two things. Neither of us are Adam freaking Levine. You don't need that. Okay. You don't need that. That's not something you don't need to pull that string. Okay. That's not the lever that you need to pull in this situation. But here's the second thing. It's like, what you just said is totally correct. It's like, oh man, like I'm a married guy. She must be, so enamored with the fact that she's pulling this superstar who's married away from his incredibly already attractive wife. But then he erases all of that with the most pathetic move on planet Earth, which is, can I name my child? Who, by the way, I think this is, I don't know if she saw this as like being like, dude, what the hell? But the fact that he is having a boy and was like, yo, I like you, but your name I like for my boy child is a little weird.
It's so bad because we've all been that down bad where you want an in.
I have not been that down bad.
Not that down bad. I mean, I'm talking about like homomorphic to this down badness. Okay, it's sort of like, it's like you want to talk to a girl, but you have nothing to say. So you make up a thing that she might be interested in, that you might be interested in. And now I'm starting to get like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
how interested are we getting?
But the fact that he's like, look, how can I get this girl's attention? Instead of just like posting a what's up, I'm Adam Levine. He's like, look, I want to name my freaking son after your female name. I feel like, I mean, look, I think all this tells us, and we've seen, all this tells us is if you're brilliant at one thing, and I don't know the first thing about his music. I'm sure it's catchy or whatever. I'm not seeking it out. My Spotify certainly does not have anything he's made saved in it, but like, clearly he's good enough to make a living with his music, right?
Yeah, clearly.
That brilliance doesn't transfer down. Like, that's all we know about things, is brilliance does not cross disciplines very well. And this is another example.
Okay, so here's a question. Like, do you think he was sober? What level of sobriety did he have when he sent this? So first off, here's the thing. The context here as well is that this is the picture she leaked. It was an Instagram DM. So this dude is going, like, I'm assuming he's not sending her texts because like then his wife would see them. So he's using Instagram DM to connect with the person that he's hooking up with. Number of drinks in. I mean, this had to be a move of complete desperation.
I mean, this is an edible. This is an edible move, right? This is not drinks.
He's in Sedona with Aaron Rodgers, and
that guy had a chocolate bar. Let's just put it that way.
He's in Sedona with Aaron Rodgers. They're middle of the way down the pathway with ayahuasca, and they're crying. There's tears flowing. There's holding of hands. There's grinding and gnashing of teeth. And he says, "You know what, Aaron? I just really want to name my child after." And I'm having an affair with, and that's when the deserves this. This is beneath him even. Shall we power rank some teams?
Sure. It was an interesting Monday.
It was. So to recap, when we talked on Sunday night prior, when we were looking at the look ahead lines, we liked Bills -9.5. We snapped that up. That ultimately closed at 10. Bills obviously put an ass whooping on the Titans. Our kind of thesis here was the Titans suck. I think we're seeing that is bearing out pretty well. The Eagles Vikings game was more interesting to me though, because while the Eagles came out guns blazing, we initially saw Vikings +3. We grabbed that, but then got to 2.5. I think both of us bought back. By the end of it, I was actually an Eagles fan kind of through and through. Kirk Cousins tries to throw like 8 interceptions. If you get Jimmy Garoppolo play in that game, that's a 3-point game, is it not?
Well, yeah, I think the Eagles took their foot off the gas a little bit for sure, but they had the block field goal where their holder made a terrific play to tackle Chris Boyd on the way to the end zone. You had the interception by Jordan Hicks that got inside the 10. So the Eagles made a fair share of mistakes. I mean, there was no points in the second half of that game, right? Mm-hmm. Like you would imagine after what Philly basically moved the ball at will early in that game. You would imagine they could have continued if it was the impetus for it, but But you're right. I mean, the Vikings, it was strange because I actually I actually came away with watching the game. I'm thinking, okay, the Vikings coaching staff is actually giving themselves a chance to win. Like their special teams were really good. The clock management stuff was really good. You know, when you saw like what felled the Vikings, and this is again, like, I don't, you know, our grading system like does kind of, you know, it lets mid quarterbacks slip through a little bit because of like third down checkdowns that don't get negatives, in my opinion. But like when you saw O'Connell, he called like every third down route to the sticks. And so it kept Kirk Cousins from being able to just check it down to the fullback on third down and long and punt. He actually had to, he actually challenged him to try to make plays and win the game. And unfortunately, like that's a smart thing to do, right? That's a very smart thing to do. Unfortunately, the Eagles were ready for whatever the Vikings had in terms of routes and coverage and all that. And you got 3 interceptions by Cousins, which should have been like 6 interceptions. And so I came away with that game thinking, and again, from me, yeah, no one's going to hear this from me, but I think Kirk Cousins physically is washed. Like you're talking about a 34-year-old quarterback who's had COVID twice.
Look at you. The take we all needed. The take we needed.
A 34-year-old quarterback who's had COVID twice.
Love that.
Looks a little frail. Arm strength was cheeks on Monday. But I actually came away with that game long-term thinking the Vikings will end up being good. I think O'Connell has a clue. But yeah, that was a rough outing for Mr. Cousins.
More impressive, the Buffalo Bills or the Philadelphia Eagles?
Bills. Whew. The Bills are the best team in the league by a decent amount. Maybe not a country mile, but they're a ways ahead of everybody.
I'm excited. I'm gonna I know how our AFC rankings are gonna start, and I'm gonna ask you a question to try and quantify where how big is that gap. But let's start with the NFC. Because I struggled with this one quite a bit. NFC top 5, go.
Okay. I'm going in this order: Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, Green Bay, LA, and then a little bit of space, San Francisco with Jimmy G.
Thankfully, we're not going to have we have the same teams. We do not have the same order. And I went back and forth on this, man. And so let me please start this by saying, look, do you remember who was all in on Jalen Hurts like the second that he played for the first time? I got a lot of shit for that.
It was you.
A lot of people were like, dude, you're out of your mind. You're clueless. Now, I'm not taking a victory lap for this yet because they played with a lead. They played against the Lions defense. Like, I want to see Jalen Hurts continue, but my God, does he look incredible. But they have had, a little bit of an easier path thus far. And so I want to account for that. And I want to give the Bucs credit for winning in situations that have not been as ideal. I mean, they went into Dallas on Sunday night and snuffed the Dallas Cowboys out. Now, you can say, oh, the Dallas Cowboys stink and yada, yada. Like, that was not everyone's hypothesis going into that game, okay? And they outperformed expectation there, right? They covered that game. They then went to New Orleans, where many people liked New Orleans in that game. They were banged up. They were playing with their third string left tackle. Mike Evans gets ejected. They don't have Julio Jones. They don't have Chris Godwin. And you would think, given all of those things, Eric, that they would have lost that game. They covered that game considerably, right?
They covered the teaser, which really irritated me.
So I don't want to lose sight of the Bucs. If we project forward to the end of the season, and that's what I'm trying to do with these power rankings a little bit, is say, look, I want to account for what's happened so far. And I also want to think about where I believe these teams would be at the end of the season, kind of with, full health and assuming, that people come back to life here. I'm going Bucs Eagles. I think it's pretty close. But the Bucs have Tom Brady is the better quarterback until Jalen Hurts is the better quarterback in the playoffs, in my opinion. I'm going Bucs Eagles. I think a little bit of space. Then I'm going Packers. I'm going a little bit of space, and I'm going Rams and Niners. I don't think the difference between the Rams and Niners is that big right now. And
Tampa Bay, by the way, 2 offensive touchdowns so far in 2 games. I think that's what I'm worried about. But to your point, to play to your strengths, The Bucs, there's reasons why they have not played well, which is injuries and that kind of thing. Whereas, you look at the AFC side, a team like the Bengals have struggled on offense, just with their full complement of players, which I think is worse than struggling because you're banged up.
They play right. The Bengals. Let's talk about the Bengals here for a second. The Bengals have played which quarterbacks thus far? Let's think about this for a second. Who did they play week 1? Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, give me a freaking break. And then, in that game, it was so, I mean, it was sort of like you watch the game and you go, there's no way this happens again, right? There's just absolutely no way that they can't possibly do this again. I mean, they basically kind of ran it back. I mean, it wasn't as many turnovers, but they essentially ran it back for a second straight game. It was not impressive by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm concerned about Cincinnati. I made one error.
Let's actually, by the way, can we have a teachable moment for the Bengals fans that flamed us in the offseason? The Bengals, the last 7 games that Joe Burrow has started, they have either had the lead or have been tied with 2 minutes or less. They won the first 4 of those 7 games. They've lost the last 3 of those games. So all of this like magic, right? Yeah. That they told us that he had when all math suggests that that late game variance is just that, seems to have bitten the Bengals in the ass here. I'll just say that. Yeah, by the way, I didn't even get to the second quarterback. They played Cooper freaking Rush the next week, right? As a 7-point favorite and lost that game. So that they are there with the Colts as the most depressing team thus far. By the way, I made a mistake. There's a gap, in my opinion, between the Eagles and then the next tier. And that next tier, Packers, Rams, Niners, I think is actually pretty squished together. And you could add them in any order, and I would not be surprised. AFC, let's rock. Okay. And this one is, I have this written down. Buffalo, Kansas City, in that order, but not, and so maybe in that order, the distance is probably 1.5 points between those two teams. Okay, that was going to be my question. I was going to ask, let's talk about that in a second. And then from there, it's Chargers, Ravens, Dolphins, and then Bengals. But again, my point about the Bengals is that they were never as good as the team that made the Super Bowl, and they're never as bad as 0-2. God damn it. So I promised everybody, like, this is, what's been so fantastic about this podcast is Eric and I are great friends. We do not converse as much normally as we used to in our prior years. It used to be the fact we'd come on this and we'd regurgitate everything we talked about for like 4 straight days. Yeah. But I promise that's not happening anymore. Like, this is the first time I've talked to you today. You talked this then Sunday, really. Yeah. So I have the exact same word. Bills, Chiefs, a decent, a little bit of a bigger gap, I should say. Chargers, Ravens, Miami Dolphins. Now, Dolphins fans are going to be pissed. They're going to say, look, we just beat the Ravens. How dare you place the Ravens ahead of the Dolphins? And again, one game does not an entire season make. And yes, it was in Baltimore. Yes, it was impressive as hell. All of those things. The reason that I have the Ravens ahead of the Dolphins right now, and the reason that I have the Chargers ahead of the Ravens, is largely because of how I believe those quarterbacks are ordered. I would take Justin Herbert very barely at full strength over Lamar Jackson, and I would take Lamar Jackson 1 billion times out of 10 over Tua. And I get that Tua's leading the league in yards and all these different things, okay? And Mike McDaniel's done an amazing job. You know who leads the league in play action rate right now? The Miami freaking Dolphins. The Dolphins are hitting every KPI imaginable. Everything. They were losing in that game and still called the 3rd most play action in week 2. Okay. They are doing a great job. Lamar Jackson is right now, in my opinion, the kind of the dark horse MVP that by the end of the season, he's playing incredibly well. He's been outshined by Allen and Hurts thus far. But my God, does he look impressive. And I know he's had a couple of bad throws. He had a bad fumble. But some of the plays that he's making are truly incredible. To me, the controversial part is I think the distance between Kansas City and LA is immense for one reason, and that is that I think Justin Herbert is legitimately injured. Okay, so I agree with you there, but I wanted to assume that he kind of battles back. Let's do this. So you said Bills Chiefs neutral field is 1.5. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I wish I could disagree with you a little bit more. I would put it at 2.5. And I guess the only reason I would come off of 2.5 is that you're obviously teasing the Chiefs out to 8.5, if that's the case. So I can understand putting it at 1.5. What would it take for it to get out to 3?
For the Bills to be favored by 3 against the Chiefs to play at home.
Okay.
That's like, because I don't like the Chiefs. So this is my homerish take. The Chiefs are a work in progress. The Bills are a finished painting right now. This is a Bills team that is in, and I mean this the most glowingly I can. The Bills are in midseason form. The Bills are a freaking bus, and there's not a whole lot. I don't know how much more they can improve. They're the best team in the league by a lot. Whereas I think the Chiefs, like, they need to get more out of MVS. They need to get more out of Juju. They need to get more out of their offensive line. They need to get more. Andy Reid called a shitty game on Thursday, right? Like, the defense had, they lost McDuffie to an injury. Now Willie Gay is on suspension. They're more of a, they're more of a canvas that is being painted on. Whereas the Bills, and I know Trey White's coming back for sure, but the Bills are more of a finished product, in my opinion. So I don't think the Bills can improve that much. I just think they're amazing already.
I think that's fair. By the way, a couple of data points that helped me, with this kind of that ladder tier, Chargers, Ravens, Dolphins. On first and second down, when throwing the ball, by a country mile, the team with the best expected points added per play, which is basically adjusting for situation. How much does each play improve the team's chances of scoring points? The Baltimore Ravens are number 1 with a bullet. Now, number 2 are the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this was one of the reasons that we bet them last week. Like, Timo Riske, PFF_Moo, tweets this out every single week, how often a team converts into the next set of downs on first down, second down, third down. The Jacksonville Jaguars have been doing a great job of that, converting at one of the highest rates on first down, which is fantastic. The Chiefs are number 3. The Bills are number 4. The Chargers are number 5. Green Bay is 6. Minnesota 7. Atlanta 8. Now, you see the team that has not been mentioned yet. The Dolphins are in 11th. I think there's a little bit of good variance that has come their way thus far, and I'm still taking the Ravens and the Chargers over them. Is there a team on the outside looking in that you, in either conference, are particularly bullish on?
Well, I think if Detroit goes into Minnesota and wins on Sunday, they deserve to be considered in that, kind of like next team in. I don't think they're going to be. I think their ceiling is right underneath Jimmy G led San Francisco 49ers team. So
I set you up for that.
I don't see that top 5 changing that much. And after seeing Jameis try to play with like 8 cracked bones in his back and seeing Arizona play a first half, maybe Dallas, if they got healthy and they get a couple more wins with Cooper Rush, then they're in the mix, obviously. But like the rest of the NFC teams are kind of garbage, and I'll take the team that's 3rd in the NFL in scoring.
By the way, here are the bottom 5 teams in EPA per early down pass play. Chicago Bears, last. The Los Angeles Rams, 2nd to last. The Las Vegas Raiders, 3rd worst. The New England Patriots and the New Orleans Saints.
The Rams one is because of interceptions, right? Stafford's on 5.
Yeah. It's not good, but interceptions matter. I mean,
they do matter for sure.
I'm bringing them up. I understand that you can account for that. Okay, we're going to move on to the week 3 slate. Before we do, a couple of things to let you guys know. Go download the PFF app. You can find it on the App Store. Search PFF. A couple of things that you'll want to pay attention to there. Josh Hermsmeyer, our friend, his buy low model is on PFF, and you can get it now for only a limited time for free. You don't have to pay for anything yet if you download the app. Last week, Garrett Wilson and Amari Cooper were 2 of the guys that he called out. Obviously, Garrett Wilson snapped and then some. So you can go grab that on the PFF app. Another good piece of PFF content to check out. Our friends, Arjun and Tej, they have been with us for a little while now are writing some great betting content, a lot of really cool data visualization that you can find on PFF and the PFF app. So go give it a review. And again, leave a review with hashtag printing press. If it's a good take, I will read it here on the podcast on Sunday night after the game. So go make that happen. Let's rock into week number 3. Where would you like to start?
All right, I'm going to start with the game that I'm going to in Indianapolis. The Colts Chiefs over 50.5 is where I'm going to look. The Chiefs are, like I said, are without Willie Gay. They're without Trent McDuffie on defense. The Colts get Pittman and Pierce back. Colts, offensive line has not been great, but the Chiefs, their pass rush has been better for the Chiefs, but not, still not necessarily striking fear in the eyes of opponents. And do you know who the defensive coordinator for the Colts is, George?
I don't actually.
It is one Gus Bradley.
Oh, it is Gus Bradley.
And look, so Gurnell runs the cover 3 to perfection. The Patrick Mahomes led Chiefs last year against the Vegas Raiders when he was the DC.
Yeah,
that was the elixir, right? Additionally, our friend and colleague Dave Salfaro is Patrick Mahomes indoors in his career. 86 PFF grade, 22 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Patrick Mahomes on throws of 10 or more yards indoors, 92.5 PFF grade, 9 touchdown, 1 interception. He is 8-0 indoors. So Andy Reid has 10 days off. He did not coach a great game on Thursday. The Chiefs are going to put up their end of the bargain here. And I think the Colts, you're kind of buying low on their offense. And I like that.
You sure are buying low on their offense. It cannot get any worse than this.
Yep.
Matt Ryan, 55.2 PFF grade. Passer rating under pressure is 7.4, Eric. That's not good. That would be it would be good if that was you'd be average if that was your yards per attempt. Okay. I
screwed this up. Great. Gus is normally short for Gurnell, but actually Gus Bradley's real name is Paul Casey Gus Bradley. So there you go. Good old Paul here taking strays, but I will throw the stray there at him. Chiefs Colts over 50.5.
What's really interesting is, and you can find this on pff.com on our betting dashboards. We have we're showing right now that 91% of the cash is on the under, which is interesting. I would anticipate that changes a little bit, and I like that quite a bit. I also will say this makes me bullish on the one that I want to bring up, which is I'm going back to the well. Okay. We said Patrick Mahomes over 2.5 passing touchdowns. Some people might want to run away because last week it didn't happen. Go back to that game. The only reason that didn't happen is because there was a pick 6 that caused that game to go really differently than it should have. Well, and that pick 6 doesn't happen. He's going over 2.5. You can get it at plus money still. So I like the over, and I like Patrick Mahomes 2.5 passing touchdowns over.
Well, and Travis Kelce got power bombed at the 1 yard line by Derwin James. And then Andy Reid decided to kick a field goal from the 1 yard line and to tie the game instead of trying to that was a bad beat. Ultimately, he did not play well either. I will say that his 2 touchdown throws were amazing. The sidearm to McKinnon and the
incredible.
And the touchdown to Justin Watson over JC Jackson was a really off platform throw and stuff. But for the most part, that offense didn't play terribly well. Without Shaq Leonard and without much to speak of at the corner. I mean, they do have Stephon Gilmore there, but they're not a talented defense, George. So I like that as well. All right, okay. This is a bus, and we're getting in front of a bus here, but
I know what this is. I like this one.
You already know. You already know.
Yep. I knew this was going to happen.
This is a revenge game to end.
I'm prepared to talk you off from this. Okay. I am ready. I came prepared. Go ahead.
I think the Washington Commanders are not getting enough respect here. Getting 6.5 against Philadelphia at home. I get the Washington football, the Philadelphia football team is a bus. They're great. They're great at the line of scrimmage. They're great in the secondary. They're great. But I will say this. Where does Minnesota, where have I said that Minnesota has struggled?
I mean, prime time when it matters.
There's that, but also wide receiver depth, right? After Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen has declined year after year. Now he scores touchdowns, but his NGS stuff has declined every year. We saw Irv Smith fail miserably on Monday night drops, not being able to, come up with the ball in contested areas. KJ Osborne's just a guy. Washington's different, right? Jahan Dotson's a player, right? I bet over on Dotson, McLaurin, and Samuel catches last week, and they all three hit. The McLaurin, Dotson, Samuel, and then Logan Thomas, that is a real receiving core. So while the Eagles have a real secondary, they will not be able to smother the receivers of the Washington Commanders in the same way that they smothered the receivers of the Minnesota Vikings. And I know people think that that's laughable on its face because Jefferson is better than anything Washington has. But folks, it's about receiver depth. It's about being able to go to your second read. And, Cousins threw the ball to Jefferson like 11 or 12 times and only got 6, that was the problem, was he could only throw to him when it mattered most. Wentz, to his credit, has been distributing the ball fairly well. Can he mitigate mistakes? Can Washington's defense be good enough? They weren't against Detroit. That's the big thing. They were an absolute speed bump against Detroit. But 6.5 is an awful lot. And it's moved that way because of Monday night. And I want to fade, much like we did with Vegas against Arizona. I want to fade these big line movements this early in the season, reacting on what amounts to be too little of data, in my estimation.
Let's fast forward. It's Sunday, about 3 p.m. Carson Wentz down 21, has 4 interceptions, 30 yards, 3 for 24.
Okay.
This is everything you just said is correct. If the quarterback for the Washington Commanders was someone like, I don't know, Jimmy G, like it doesn't have to be anyone super special. But you're telling me, especially in Washington, like he's getting no backing from that crowd. Like they don't give a crap. They don't care.
Can I give you one more angle?
Please.
So Washington, when down 15, scored a touchdown, went for 2, right? Woke. They were down 14, scored a touchdown, went for 2, woke, right? The announcers, I love Kenny Albert. I love Jonathan Vilma. They acted like they saw that for the first time in their lives on that game, even though it's like, Kevin Cole wrote about this 5 years ago. However, when Eric Eager needed the teaser badly, they were down 15 again. They kicked the extra point and missed and lost by 9. They will not make the decision of kicking the dumbass extra point when they are down 14. So if they get a chance, this is why the lack of the 7 does not hurt me as much. If they get down 14 and they score that backdoor touchdown, they are going for 2, and plus 6.5 is in play. That is another angle to this game. That's why I like Washington.
Incredible. Can I ask you this question? So right now, unders are destroying. I think it's 2-1.
Yeah.
So not surprisingly, a lot of lower totals, a lot of totals in the 40, 40.5, 41 range. Couple games that are over 50, but those are all, it's Chiefs. It's, as we talked about, it's Bills, Dolphins, 52.5, Lions, Vikings is also 52.
2 bad defenses in that game, but yeah.
But if you go to PFF.com right now and you look at our model, a lot of overs that it likes right now. Like, are you buying into the trend zone that, offenses suck and there's a bunch of unders going to continue to happen, or is there positive regression coming?
I think there's probably positive regression coming. They don't they have the lever. They have not been calling as many illegal contacts as we thought. But the fact of the matter is there just aren't that many good quarterbacks anymore. You look at like the low totals, right? Vegas, Tennessee. Well, let's not even go there. Let's go Saints, Panthers. Like one of the quarterbacks, maybe 2 of the quarterbacks in that game suck. Texans, Bears, both quarterbacks in that game probably stink. Packers, Bucks, like the Bucks offense is just full of injuries. Falcons, Seahawks, good Lord. Niners, Broncos. I mean, Are we, how far, by the way, okay, hold on. How far are we away from another quarterback singing "God, You Are My God" on the sideline in Denver? Like, is he going to be singing "Our God is an Awesome God" on the sideline now? Is that where we're going to try to get to in Denver? Because I was sitting at the office, the PFF offices, probably one of the, it just kind of trying to soak it in a little bit. And I kept looking over at Houston, Denver and going, is that your king? That game was like 10-6 for like most of the game. And I'm sitting here listening to how the Broncos are supposed to win the AFC West. Mm-hmm. And they're in a barn burner with Houston.
Yeah. I think it's a ways away. I mean, they've got to really give it a go with Russell Wilson. But here's the thing. So the ratio between big time throws and turnover-worthy plays this year is less than 1. In prior seasons, you just could look back to last season, it's about 1.43 to 1, almost 1.5 big time throws for every single turnover-worthy play. And, those are things that my gut says, and the math says that those things are unstable, right? And you should kind of, those things are less likely to happen than something like, consistently throwing negatively graded plays or making positively graded plays. Those kind of high variance situations. So on one hand, I go, that should flip back. We should have something that's a little more balanced out. But on the other hand, to your point, like these quarterbacks do suck. Do they suck that much more than they did last year? I don't know, but I am anxious to kind of test it out a little bit this week. And I think there is opportunity on some overs to take advantage. In fact, the one that I was going to bring up is Vegas, Tennessee. I mean, neither of those teams have a particularly great set of, secondary. No one's going to cover Devontae Adams in this game. The Titans were thoroughly embarrassed by the Buffalo Bills. Yeah. And now they're back at home. They're 0-2, and they're playing a Raiders defense that, let's be honest, is not, they have great pass rushers, but that's kind of about it. It's 45.5 right now. Again, not the highest total in the world. You think back to maybe last year, I would say this is probably like a 49.5, 50.5 type game. What do you think about that?
Yeah, the only issue is there's like a, so you're looking at 55% chance of rain Sunday, 12-mile-per-hour winds, a team in Vegas who's used to playing indoors. Tennessee, I want to say when you look at their injuries, Taylor Lewan is questionable. He had to miss some time. Mm-hmm. Both offensive lines are terrible. But I think to your broader point about overs, I think the big thing is the last 2 seasons, early in the season, you had defensive backs who were forced to miss games because of COVID-19. And COVID-19 was obviously awful, but it wasn't like season ending or debilitating. So secondaries are not missing players because of COVID-19 anymore. Secondaries are as good as they're going to be right now. And obviously this is just math, but the likelihood that a team loses a corner is a lot higher than the opponent losing a quarterback. So I think over time, you might see some more overs. Now, the combating part of that is over time, generally speaking, receivers get hurt, offensive lines get hurt, and weather gets worse. But I do think you're going to get a bump in totals over the next few weeks just because of, even what you're seeing in Kansas City, like McDuffie gets hurt. Willie Gay has to go on suspension. You see injuries across the league. Amadi Alruwariye sat out for Detroit last week, and that was one of the reasons I think why the line moved towards the Commanders. I think you're going to see a little bit of the water level move some.
Okay, I get that you don't like that one. So let me give you another one because I've been excited about this. There aren't a lot of single games that I like. This is going to be a tough week in the Circa Millions contest, and I thought last week was tough as well, and got tougher thanks to the Browns dumbass. Last time I'm ever doing that. Such a stupid move. My God. So what am I doing? I'm re-racking and I'm going to the teasers and I'm bringing back an old friend. So the first one that I like, Houston is going to Chicago to play the Bears. Chicago is a favorite in this game. Houston plus 8.5. It's a total of 40. That 8.5 worth a lot more than if it was a total of, say, 50, 52. And then I want to pair it with our Atlanta Falcons going to Seattle, getting a 2-point dog, getting them out to 8. So Texans plus 8.5, Falcons plus 8.
Are you at all worried about Arthur Smith and his defiance towards people who would like to see more of Kyle Pitts?
I'm always worried about Arthur Smith. There's a lot of things I'm worried about with Arthur Smith. Here's what I read from that. Okay. He got defensive. You know what that tells me? He believes it. He's like, yeah, there's actually some truth to this. I need to get this motherfucker going. But here's the thing. Kyle Pitts, it's not like I'm curious whether Kyle Pitts is good or not. I know Kyle Pitts is great. And in this situation, in this game, the Falcons have put up points without using him yet. They're playing the Seattle Seahawks. The total on this game is 42. Like, you know, I as worried as I am about Arthur Smith because he's not a particularly great coach, that does not scare me. It does not scare me off of this one. So no, I mean, the Falcons have scored 26 and 27 points. They've lost by 1 and they've lost by 4. So no, I like this one just fine.
Okay. All right. I was also going to propose New England, but I think that the problem with New England is
they're playing at home against Baltimore and they are 2.5-point home dogs.
Right. And so, and the total is relatively modest. It's a 43.5. We do like over in that game. And the problem is the Ravens have shown the explosiveness again. Mm-hmm. So they could extend on the Patriots here and it could be rough sledding, right? That would be, I think, the worry, right?
Yeah, I think so. Before we get to our last couple here, DraftKings, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is hooking you guys up. Use promo code PFF. And then when you bet $5 on any NFL team to win, you get $200 in free bets. By the way, if you're going to use this promo, make sure you type in PFF. Obviously helps us out quite a bit. And as a member of the printing press, we all have to support one another. If that isn't enough, you can also get a boost on your winnings with stepped up same game parlays, boosted odds, and this 100%. What is this? I'm not even reading this correctly. Anyways, you get the picture. You use promo code PFF when you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up, bet $5 on any team and immediately get $200 in free bets from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See the notes in the show details for more information. Also, our friends. So as we get back to this, we talk about more opportunities. Things that you cannot do on brothrow.com yet are bet teasers, but it is probably the easiest way for you to bet a side or a total, especially if you're in a place where there is no betting legalized. So you bet against another person, they pay you either via Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Skrill, or Strike. And I can attest, I have had multiple bets paid out on Brothrow. I was kind of skeptical. I got paid out. There's no vig, so you bet 10 to win 10. They're looking just to create a community of people that like betting. So they're not looking to take your money right now. And the only way to sign up is to use a link. And our link is brothrow, BROTHROW.com/PFF. Go place some bets with some cool friends and profit this Sunday. Okay. Why don't you give me one more, or how many more do you have?
Yeah, I have one more. And this is, I can't quit him. And I know I said some mean things about him on Twitter, and Timo called me out. He said, "Look, you haven't even let the paint dry on your new contract, and you're talking shit about Jameis." But I'm taking the Saints -3 in Carolina.
Wow.
Look, everybody sees this, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I hate to bet against future Nebraska Cornhuskers coach Matt Rule, but I have to here. The Panthers it's just there. It's not there, is it? Right. And the Saints defense is good. If the Saints showed us anything last week, I know, it didn't end well, but their defense is great. Right. Saints offense was sputtering, but I'm willing to give most of the credit to that, to how good the Bucs defense is.
Mhm.
So I'm going to go Saints -3 here on the road to avenge the loss that they had last year. Remember, the Saints blew out the Green Bay Packers in Jacksonville in week 1 and then got smoked by the Carolina Panthers, who, remember when they were all in week 2 last year. I'm going to go Saints -3.
Okay. I guess, how worried are you about the fact that like Jameis's back is broken in like 45 different places?
If Sam Darnold plays in this game, who's the better quarterback in this game, him or Baker?
Sorry, if Sam Darnold plays, who's better, Jameis?
No, sorry, that's Andy Dalton. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess Andy Dalton. Yeah.
I mean, I'm betting against what I feel is a bad football team here.
In the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, they're not a great football team. I'm with you there. I'll give you one more that I do like. And this one is kind of preying on there can't be this many games that are scoring so few points. So I'm going to go to another opportunity for an over. And I'm actually going to look all the way to Monday night. This is the lowest total of the week. It's 39. It is Cowboys Giants. I get it. Cooper Rush, Daniel Jones, like this just feels ugly. This feels brutal. Close game. Cooper Rush is going to throw the ball a little bit. Daniel Jones, always a turnover waiting to happen. Micah Parsons, he's going to force some fumble. He's going to take it back to the house. Guy's leading the league in pressures right now. But 39 is too low even for these two crappy teams on Monday. I don't think this is one we go with on our lock of the week, but I wanted to throw it out there because I think there's some opportunity to grab a little over 39 right now. Before we choose, before we choose here, let you think about it. Let it simmer for a second. Our friends at No House Advantage, changing the game by offering the most dynamic fantasy sports platform available today. You might not have known about it, but it exists. Play in pick'em contests versus other people for a shot at winning $250,000 plus in cash. Download the app, choose a contest, select your player props, earn points for correct picks, and climb the leaderboard for your shot to win big money every single day. You can also test your skills versus the house and 20x your entry if you hit on all your picks. Bet on up to 5 player prop over-unders or individual player matchups across every major league sport, includes NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA, MMA, and NASCAR. Sign up now with promo code FORECAST, FORECAST at nohouseadvantage.com, or download the app on the App Store and get your first deposit match up to $25. So use that promo code PFF, go download No House Advantage, start playing in some contests right away, especially if you're like already out of your pick'em league. That can happen pretty early on. This is a great way to kind of re-rack there. All right. Lock of the week time. We picked a few last week, and thankfully we did, because Mahomes and over 2.5 did not hit. I would like to posit that we keep Mahomes over 2.5.
Yeah, that's it. That's in there. Either you bet it all the time or you don't bet it.
True. What else? What are we trying to pair with it? After going through these, where are you feeling strongest?
I don't want to correlate it with the Colts Chiefs over, although I do like that bet a lot. I do like your teaser.
I'm a fan of that.
I would honestly rather pluck my eyeballs out than depend upon Daniel Jones to get me an over. I will say that. Like, I'm talking about mental health. I'm talking about quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that.
Which is important.
What if we took your teaser, the Falcons and the Texans, the stinker teaser of the week?
I do like Texans Falcons. There's nothing that gets you up in the morning and makes you feel more alive than knowing you're depending on the combo of Marcus Mariota and Davis Mills. I mean,
both teams are 2-0 against the spread this year. That's maybe the trend zone maybe you don't want to have, but it is certainly something.
I'm just glad. Look, I understand your position on the Commanders. I agree 6.5 fundamentally is too much at home against a division rival. And maybe the Commanders figure it out in this game and pull it away. But I know that our model does not have a binary variable for is the quarterback of one of the teams a complete and utter fraud, a total joke, and will he crumble like a house of cards when met with adversity? And that would be a 1 for Carson Wentz. So I'm glad that we're staying away from it.
Perfect.
So
I've also, by the way, been giving out FCS picks on my Twitter. I do want to give it out to the printing press because the game is tomorrow. Tennessee Chattanooga, the alma mater of our Cole Brown, formerly of PFF. They go to Illinois. They are getting 17.5. With our PFF FCS model, I make the game 27.5. Take Illinois, lay the points with Illinois against Tennessee Chattanooga. Last week it was Penn, the Quakers. Shout out to Zach Drapkin. The week before it was St. Francis, PA. They've been sending, boys. So go ahead and take that one for the road.
Thank you. Thank you for giving the people what they need. By the way, if you are a member of the printing press, share this podcast with a buddy, bring someone else in and give them the joy that is being a STEAM member of the press. And I encourage you and your friends to join us on Sunday night. We guess the lines right after Sunday Night Football. We've been testing out going live a little bit early because if the Sunday Night Football game is not great, we have Niners Broncos. So maybe we go live during that fourth quarter and you can experience me having to talk about Jimmy G live and in living color. But guess the lines with us, guess the lines with some buddies. It's way more fun to do it that way. We will be back, of course, on Sunday night, and we'll let you know on Twitter if we are going live before the game ends. We won't start guessing the lines until the game ends, I promise. So you can be sure to tune in on the PFF YouTube channel and check that out. And I mentioned this last time, but definitely start checking out a couple of new things that are happening at PFF. It's Just Football with Mike Renner and Trevor Sikkema. That's on every day at 11 a.m. on the PFF YouTube channel. And Eric, you'll appreciate this. Rumor has it that Sam and Steve are trying some new stuff out on their podcast. So
that sounds like it came out of marriage therapy.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's a couple that's been together for like 20 years. Like, we got to try some new things. But they're doing a new segment on explaining the grade. They've got a lot of questions about like Lamar Jackson's grade, for example. Some really transparent, good conversation about that, which is fantastic. And they're doing some real football conversations with their interviews. They used to be interviewing people, and those interviews, candidly, they're not professional interviewers. They're football guys. And so now they're having football conversations with some esteemed guests. So go check out the PFF NFL podcast as well. That was our show. We love you all, and we will see you on Sunday night.